So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about branding and social media. So class is in session, let's dive in. Welcome to the Fashion Masterclass. I'm Angela Taylor-George. So let's get right into it. This is a really exciting topic, branding and social media. So let's start with branding first. And you know, when I started to think about doing this episode, I was kind of surfing the internet because I wanted to find a really good definition of branding. And I did come across something, and I will drop this, the link to this whole article in the comments section. But I wanted to read this to you because I thought it really encapsulated it and it explained it really well. It said, branding is the ongoing effort to shape your audiences, and then in parentheses, it has customers, clients, employees, etc. Perceptions. It is a process and strategy that encompasses the steps you take to give meaning to your product and organization. Branding aims to establish a significant and differentiated presence in the market that attracts and retains loyal customers. So I get a lot out of that. I hope you did as well. You know, branding should be authentic. It should be distinctive. It should be relevant. It should be consistent. It should be bold. And you know, when you think about brand, like let's think about some of the the greatest brands of our time, like Coca-Cola, or Nike, or Apple. You know, these brands evoke a feeling. Like branding is about feeling. It's about what is the feeling that gets evoked when somebody, you know, wears my product, you know, wears my dress, wears my jewelry, you know, whatever it is that you're making in fashion. Like, what is it, you know, what feeling gets evoked from that? You know, it really is about feelings. So, you know, what are we trying to convey, and what do we want people to feel when they're wearing our products? And how relevant is it in the marketplace? Like right now, we'll say like, you know, upcycling, that's a big hot topic right now. So that's really relevant. It's on point, it's on trend, you know, things like that. Like, you know, is it relevant? Is it modern and relevant? And does, you know, things that are sustainable, that's relevant. It's a big hot topic. You know, how are we making it? How is the fabric made? What's the manufacturing process involved? You know, is this all done sustainably? That's relevant right now. Authentic is like, you know, how true is this to you? How is this, you know, what are you trying, like, is this conveying something that's real and something that's true? You know, that's to me, when I think of authenticity, that's what I think about. You know, consistent, is what I'm doing consistent? You know, am I, you know, does my branding, the overall branding, seem consistent? Not like having all different types of things, and you know, not to jump ahead into social media, but having your Instagram and then having like certain images that are one way and then images that are another way, and then but things that just aren't really following like some type of common thread or consistency, or you know, or even consistent with your audience. Like, you know, who are you really appealing to, and having like a consistent presence to that audience, instead of, you know, if you're appealing to, you know, women, you know, maybe over 50, you know, they wear certain things that maybe a girl who's like an 18-year-old would wear or something, you know. So the messaging is consistent with your audience. Distinctive, you know, is it distinctive? Is this, or do I just like blend into the sea of everything else that's out there? Do I rise above, and am I showing something that's distinct, something that's different? You know, what is the distinguishing factor to my brand? What's different about what I'm doing? So is it distinctive? And bold, I mean, is it, you know, is it something that that has presence, has stage presence? You know, is it bold? Or again, is it just like blending into the sea of everything else that's out there? Part of brand is my logo. You know, that's part of brand. My name, the name of the company, the logo, the color palette that you use, you know, it should be consistent. You know, if your three colors are, you know, gray, black, and white, I'm just making it up, like then that is the consistent color palette through your branding. Your logo is consistent in the messaging, wherever your logo is present, that it's the logo, or there could be logo variations that you can use, for social media. We use this variation of the logo for our label. We use that variation of the logo for our hang tag. We use this variation of the logo. But again, these are things that are predetermined, that this is the way my logo is. This is the way it can be. There are 3 variations, and we never deter from that. It's only ever those 3 variations. It's only ever those color palettes, the color palette. So that's logo. So, and also website, so that'll transition into your website. How does your website look? That will speak to what your brand is based on how your website looks, the imagery, the type of photography that you use, the age of the models, the ethnicity of models, size of models, things like that. So that will also, be add into what your brand is about. Also, your audiences, who is your audience? Also, as far as, also competition, like who are you in the competitive, like where are you in this competitive landscape? That's part of brand as well. Like, knowing who your brand adjacencies are. We talk about that, especially when we talk about we used to talk about that a lot with department stores, for instance. Like what are the brand adjacencies? Who are we sitting with on the selling floor in a department? It's the same even in a boutique. Who are you sitting with in that boutique? What other brands are sitting near your brand? That is a brand adjacency. So knowing who your and then knowing who your direct competitors are, that's important to know as well. So these are some of the things we think about. And then we could think about, go off into, brand strategy. Like, what is the strategy of the brand? When we think about strategy, we think about audience, we think about positioning, and we think about what are our goals. Brand equity, what is the value of my label? What is the value of my brand? How much, that you can have somebody making a very similar product, and one brand can get much more money than another brand, for instance, because there is equity in that brand. That brand, their perception is that brand is higher on the level. It should be a higher price point. So there's this perceived value is higher, and that is the brand equity. What is the perceived value of your brand, and where is it positioned price point wise? That's brand equity, for instance. So there's other, so there are things when we talk about brand, we talk about brand equity, we talk about brand strategy, we talk about brand, we talk about branding, so these are the terms that we use. So these are the things that you're going to want to think about if you're starting out, or even if you're, you could do a rebrand. There are companies that, will just rebrand everything. It's like everything is new logo, new website, new imagery, new types of models, new types of photography, new types of whatever they're making, clothing, say, new types of clothing. It's a complete rebrand. It's a complete overhaul of the brand as it was, the image as it was. It's a complete overhaul of that. So that's called a rebrand. So again, whether you're new and you're starting out, you're just developing brand, or you're rebranding your company, these are a lot of the things that you'll be thinking about. So social media, obviously the usual Instagram, Facebook, there's Pinterest, Twitter. But I think for most part, fashion brands are obviously they're very Instagram focused, and some Facebook. It's definitely an older clientele on Facebook. It's an older demo on Facebook demographic. It's an older demo. I think on Instagram, that's everybody, young and old, everybody on Instagram. And then also there's TikTok. That's definitely for a much younger audience, but some brands are getting onto TikTok. And I know that at the last New York Fashion Week, they did have some TikTok influencers that came in for New York Fashion Week. So I think it seems like they're jockeying to get into, more of a place of like an Instagram, for instance. So TikTok is definitely a platform to be aware of and maybe check into. But definitely Instagram. And so when when we're posting on social media, when we're doing our Instagram, let's talk about Instagram for a minute. it's important that your feed has a beautiful cohesiveness to it. And again, maybe, it could be working in color palettes. It could be working with certain, prints or artistry, or, I've seen people like revamp their Instagram, and it, completely, one brand, like it was like completely modern. They were, they just stayed with certain colors and everything had a geometry to it. And that was what their feed looked like, things like that. So it's like being mindful of what does your feed look like? What is the grid? What are the, of the 9 photos in the grid, how does that look when somebody's scrolling through? And also like, are you, what are the components of your Instagram? Are you, a lot of people like to do sayings, for instance, or, throughout, doing product shots, doing, influencers, like tagging influencers, wearing their clothing, staying in a color palette. For instance, I know at Alice and Trixie, we try to have like kind of a color palette cohesiveness running through the feed. Like sometimes you go to somebody's Instagram and it has like their sales and promotions and things like that, and I don't really think that looks great on in a feed. I think it's okay to do that, like if you're having a promotion, to put it, or maybe do it in a story, for instance. So that's just for for the 24 hours, and then yeah, I think, or you could put it in your Instagram, and then you could always delete it after your promotion's done. I don't think you want the sale promo to live on your feed indefinitely. It's something that you'd probably want to delete, But again, being mindful of, the cohesiveness, back to that word, cohesiveness, how is my feed cohesive? That's important. And also, obviously, with social media, with outreach to influencers that you think would be a right fit, to try and do like, product for post with micro influencers, anybody under 100,000, under 50,000, even under 20,000, even better, who usually they have a more highly engaged audience. If you can collaborate with other brands that, that you guys can share audiences and stuff to do promotions with other brands, things like that. Just kind of be on the lookout for brands that are like-minded, that you share a similar audience, to do collaborations, do things together to build your following on social. As far as Facebook goes, I don't really have an opinion about that so much. Again, I just think it's an older demo. I think when you talk about Facebook, it's probably good for your ads, to do Facebook ads. Facebook and Instagram ads, if you're doing e-commerce, things like that. I think that that's when I think Facebook. But the day of like having a Facebook page and people liking your page, I don't know. I really feel like it's really all about Instagram. If you're in fashion, it's really all about Instagram right now, and Facebook isn't as important. And I did mention Pinterest, but I don't know. I don't really know how important it is in terms of, getting business. I know that we have Pinterest, but I don't really know that anything really comes from it as far as like sales and stuff. But I think the thing is to like pick, 2 outlets, and like you don't have to be on every single outlet. Like pick, if Instagram is for you, then just Instagram. It doesn't have to be, you could pick like 1 or more outlets, but you don't need to be on 5 outlets, Pick 2 that you can commit to, that you can be consistent with, that you can be engaging with your audience, building your audience, liking, commenting, DMing people you want to collaborate with, and also being authentic in those DMs and never doing anything in a blanket way or in a spammy way. Engage with their content before you try to engage with them as well. Also, which would be liking, commenting, sharing, things like that, to engage with them before you actually DM them to see if they can wear, something that you made, that type of thing. I think it's good to engage with their content before you try to engage with them directly. I think that's always a good practice. I think, those are just really the the bullet points that I wanted to hit today about branding and social media. And if you're looking for more personalized attention and you really want me to look at your brand specifically, drop down into the description and shoot me an email, and in the subject line put coaching, and I'll circle back and tell you what's available for you with my schedule and how we can work together that way. So if you got value, subscribe, like, and share the content. Spread the love. And also jump into the Facebook group, The Fashion Masterclass. That's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week.